Wow. Bring my phone back. Hurry. Be quiet though.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. This is Shaquestra from Voices from Wise Women. And so today we're going to be talking about African spirituality. So I have four sisters that are going to talk about spirituality. But before we get started, we always do 30 seconds of silence. I mean, we do the silence because I want to have everyone come into the room and be present in the room. So we do 30 seconds of silence. You go into your prayers, whatever it is you want to do. You take your deep breaths, and we're going to do 30 seconds, and that's going to bring everybody and their spirit into the room. All right, so 30 seconds. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And on Voices from Wise Women, you will hear children in the background, you'll hear dogs, you'll hear husbands, all that kind of stuff, because we are people friendly and we have lives as well. So it's all good. You may see my mother, who also has Alzheimer's, come in the background. So you just never know. So just be open for that. So today I also pick a card. So I got my calendar, and today the calendar says, I live in a peaceful world because I choose to think lovingly and peaceful thoughts. So I thought, there's a lot going on. And then when I pulled the card for today, it said, every thought I think is creating my future. So I was like, okay, that all lined up. So the thoughts that we think, thoughts are things. So we have to be mindful of what we think at all time. I always say every word you speak is a prayer. And so we need to be mindful of what we're speaking at the time. You're going to see me looking down and be like, what is she doing? Some people are putting on Facebook are putting questions. So I just want to make sure that we're able to answer the questions as well. And Rolanda is also going to be doing that as well. So you're going to see me doing all that kind of stuff in here. All right. So we're going to talk about African spirituality, and we're going to talk about Ifa, if I'm correct with that. I've been exposed to I've been to one of their initiations. I've been initiated into the House of Cam, and so I work with Kemetic. That's one of my practices, the Kemetic practice. And so I do know a little bit about Ifa, but I think people don't understand it and misrepresentation. Not misrepresentation. I don't want to say misrepresentation, but really don't understand Ifa. And so I hear people saying things that are not true. So I wanted to have you all come on, just really talk about Ifa, your practice, how you got into it, and how it's really helped you and what's going on. So the first person I'm going to have introduced is Sister Tanae, but she also has a spiritual name. And so I'm going to let her, each person, introduce themselves and then tell a little bit about how they got into Ifa. So, Sister Tanae.
All right. So my priest name is Ianifa Ifatoke Shangoyimi Omibimileke. And that's half of them. So we'll stop there. That's good. And let me also honor my mother, as my mother reminded me this morning, who's watching, that she took time to choose my name. So Tanae is also the name, since, she carried me in her womb. So I honor her. How I got into this is a long story, so I'm going to compact it.
Before you start, did you just introduce the other sisters first?
Oh, yes. Okay. Let's go to Iya Ifakimi. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Iya.
Greetings. I am Ianifa Ifakimi Omigbemi. I am also known as Jacqueline, to give reverence to my mother as well, because that is the name that I walked into this earth with. So thank you for having me.
Iya Oya.
Okay. My spiritual name is Ianifa Ifatupwe, Oyatobe, Fasheke, Faemi, Akambi. Giving honor to my mother, since Tanae kicked that off today. My name is Genevieve.
Oh, okay.
And
It's my
yeah,
turn?
it's your
All right.
turn.
So, greetings, everyone. My name is Samantha. My Ifa name is Iya Damilola. I have many other names, but I stick to Damilola. Awaranke is the next name that you see in its pronunciation, so it's lovely to be here.
Great. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey.
All right. So today's, let's start. How did you get into it?
All right. Here we go. So basically, I was pretty blessed to be born into a family that was already metaphysical. So my mother and my father were both part of the Black Arts movement. They were into what we now call veganism, but organic food and all that good stuff. So I learned how to meditate, do yoga at a really young age. But they were also very open to me exploring different modalities of spirituality. And even though I come from generations of preachers, you know, I would go see my grandma preach. I would go to the Baptist church. I would, you know, I've been exposed to Hinduism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When I went to Florida A&M University, this was in the 90s, and the exposure of these books on Ifa and Kemetic learning was coming out. So I would see these books and I'll kind of thumb through them and also go to different lectures, what have you. And I was really drawn to Kemetic learning. I lived in different places because I'm an artist and been exposed to different things. And I would say at Shakespeare and Company, Johnny Lee Davenport, may he rest in peace, gave me The Ways of the Orisha by Peter Naimark. And I included that as my character on stage. That also kind of led, and also my studies with Unity Church. When I got to Los Angeles, I met a sister working at Universal Studios who said, hey, there's a church called Unity that's fusing Unity thought with Kemetic thought, where I met you, Sister Shakwestra. And I had ended up working there for a while. And then there was a brother known as Brother Steve at the time who came in. He's also our Oluwo Obafemi Fayemi. And he was introduced to Reverend Bird by a common colleague at the time. And he did our Sunday address. And the rest is history. And I received my warrior soon and my hand of Ifa, and here we go.
Right. What is Ifa? So what is Ifa?
Any of y'all want to answer that besides me? I can go for it.
We thought it was your time to shine.
Well, you're all gonna talk about how you got into it, but I just want to know what, because people might be saying, right, so what is Ifa?
Okay, so Ifa, Ifa is pretty much the wisdom and the study of nature. As we know, the Orishas, or what we know as the Orishas, those mediators between us as human beings and God, we know them as being the elements of nature. So as God, or Olodumare, the creator of all existence, is the creator of all things, the one supreme God, or one supreme being, the Orisha are the ones who mitigate for us on our behalf, pretty much. And Ifa is just a study of nature. We can say Ifa is so much more, but because nature is so vast and so big, we say Ifa is the study of nature. It's the study of all things.
Okay. So how did you get into the practice?
Okay, so I got into the practice about over 11 years ago now, Tanae, because you were before me and Genevieve, yeah. or Iya or Ya. Yeah, I grew up in the church. I grew up in a holiness church. My mother is a pastor. My grandfather, my grandmother, everybody's full of preachers. I myself was a young minister. I've traveled to different places across the world preaching the gospel. And what brought me to Ifa, I had a sister-in-law of mine who introduced me to Ifa. I was more into the gatherings and coming around when they would do ceremonies. So I've always been an open person and just feeling and trying to understand energy and vibes. So for me, I stuck around about a good year and a half, 2 years before I did anything. Just watching everybody, making sure that this wasn't any devil worship. and you know, through that, I saw how, you know, the many practices that we understand in the church are still really conveyed in Ifa. There's no real difference. I'm a priest now. Before I came to Ifa, I was a priest, a minister in the church. So for me, my destiny in itself has never changed. It's just taken a new expression or a new look, a perspective of things. But in coming across my sister-in-law, and she introduced me to Baba Femi, Stephen Mackey, and Shango Dare, and the studies and the teachings, I really got into the divination piece of it. And that's what really intrigued me to go deeper. Since then, I've had my Ishefa, my one hand of Ifa, for over 11 years now. And I've been a priest of Ifa, Yemoya, and Oshun now. Well, most recently Oshun for the past over 3 years now.
Okay. The rest of the other sisters, how did you come to the practice?
So I myself been fortunate enough to have a mother that was very open. I studied Catholicism, Christianity, Baptist, and as she moved on, I had to journey my spiritual practice on my own. I began to meet different people of different walks. I went to Agape and started to meet different people there. And I had a friend who attended Karash Unity, and I believe he was there at the same lecture that Iya Shango Yemi was at, and he was referred to Baba Wafemi, which is my Aluo. And at that time, I also had a book, The Way of the Orisha, and I had a reading. And for me, prior to even meeting Baba Femi and reading The Way of the Orisha, I just was tapped into nature and how nature speaks. How, you know, we as human beings, we have human nature, but we don't know the nature of who we are because of the vastness of our brain. So to see how energy ebbs and flows, to see how nature speaks to us is what brought me to Ifa. I have been a student of Ifa for 8 years. I received my Ishefa 8 years ago with Iya Shango Yemi's home, I believe. And the rest has been from there. I've been a priest of Ifa and Yemoja for over 3 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay. The last sister?
Mine is a long story also, but I'll make it short. I grew up kind of studying some of everything. I was raised Baptist. Maybe in my 20s, there's a group of friends that was with the organization, the ELA, that we always throughout life somehow ended up working together or coming together in some sort of way. And by that time in my life, I was really into candles, oracle cards. I dream a lot, working with the Book of Psalms, anything that was spiritual, chanting, just several different things. And we were working together at this particular place. And one day I just decided that I was going to set up an ancestor altar out of the blue. I went to one of my friends. I asked her, how do you set up an ancestor altar? She was just super excited. My other friend told me, I knew you would come to this side sooner or later. They invited me to a gathering that Baba Femi was at. I met him. I kind of analyzed him. I said, oh, he's a regular guy. Okay, I like this. I like the atmosphere. I like the environment. I got my first reading. It said for me to initiate. I was like, I'm ready. He said, slow down. Got my second reading. It said to initiate. I said, okay, I'm going to get monthly readings now. My third one, it said to initiate. I said, I'm in. So I've had my first hand of Ifa for about 10 years, almost 11. And I've been a priest now of Ifa and Oya for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Great. So you were all initiated. I think Tanea was at your initiation.
I think so. When I got my hand of Ifa. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I know about the Femi. Wow, that's so interesting, Joel.
Yeah.
Part of that. So did you have any pushback when you decide to do Ifa from your family? Did any of you have any pushback? Family and friends?
I'll go first. Family, they thought that I was crazy. Okay. That was the first thing. you know, because they swore I was going to be an actress, a dancer, entertainer. But they were like, okay, we don't know what's going on. My mother-in-law at the time was like, I knew you were. I thought you believed in God. I said, I still believe in God. You know, everyone thought I was crazy, a witch. My children, they were like, okay, we'll go with the flow.
Okay. How old were your children?
My children at the time, oh goodness, they were in their early teens. Now they're all older. It's 8 of them. They all have their Shefa.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so some support there sometimes from them. And then when I get resistance, they come back and they want a reading, or they want one of the other ladies on the line to give them information about their love life, what's going on, case it out there, the things in their life. So it was a fun ride. It was interesting.
Right. Any of you, any pushback?
For me, I did receive a little pushback from my mom, and I had to remind her, well, you kind of introduced me to multiple different cultures and different religions. So to understand that this is what you kind of prepared me for, and to not believe everything that you see on television or what someone may tell you. And so we've had conversations, and she said one day, she said, you need to get back into God. And she sent me a picture of the sun. So little things have shown where she's beginning to have a better understanding of it. My father actually received his hand of Ifa last year.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, the understanding as they see me and the other Ias that are around, they are beginning to gain more clarity and understanding of what Ifa truly is.
Okay. So when you're in Ifa, do you have like orishas, or can you explain to us what orishas are?
So orishas are basically, as Iya Damilola mentioned earlier, are the forces of nature. And we can say each orisha represents the mystery of that force. So Shango Yemi, I'm a priest of Shango. So Shango is usually represented in thunder, lightning, in nature. And so, and also lightning only strikes one time. But if you put that into human form, if you will, or the energy that we say the children of Shango carry, usually it's someone who is constantly facing their fears, because Shango is the awo of courage. He understands courage. And the way to do that is to constantly face your fears. Maybe someone who other people may say they're kind of rude, loud. They're just very passionate people. I don't know why they say we're rude and loud, but very passionate.
Since the three,
right. We want the world to change and to look like how we see it, you know. Also, within Shango, almost Shangos may have what we say, tune into the divine feminine, what is also known could be a sixth sense, if you will, because of that foresight. Usually almost Shangos are leaders in their communities. They're always speaking in the communities in order to change the community and bring about change. If you have everything, there's a law of polarity. So as we jokingly say, but really is true, Shango can represent itself as the pastor or the pimp. Which way are you going to go? How are you going to use your language to heal and transform? I mean, which way are you going to do this transformation? So each orisha has their archetype. Each orisha has bunches of stories behind them, but they're all reflected in nature and also within yourself.
Okay. So does the orisha pick you, or you pick the orisha?
Ooh. Anybody?
Well, I'm sorry, Iya. Okay. Oya, go ahead.
Okay, the orisha pick you.
Okay.
You can want to pick the orisha. You may walk with that energy of that orisha that you want to pick, but the orisha actually pick you.
Right. So can you tell me what your orishas are? Which each one of your
my orishas, it would be my head is Oya, which I'm crowned or initiated unto, and my feet, which is my complement, since we deal in dualities of Shango.
Okay.
And mine are Yemoja and Ogun.
Okay.
Mhm. Mine is Shango and Yemoja. It's my feet.
Oh, so once your head and your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
See, I'm just trying to
And
get it like. and the other
Yemonja and Shango.
You name shot. Okay. Okay. So now, so do you have more than one altar? Do you have just one altar for your Orisha, or do you have altar for your Orisha and then one for an ancestral altar as well? Or do you just have multiple altars?
Well, I have multiple altars. I
Okay.
have definitely for ancestors.
Okay.
It seems at this time I'm adding more to it,
Mhm.
but definitely ancestral altar. I have one for Ifa. Ifa in itself is destiny.
Okay.
So Ifa has her, his, its, if you will, for lack of a better term, own altar. And then for me, each Orisha has their altars.
Okay.
So
Okay. So do you have your altars close by, or are your altars separate within your house?
So for me, my ancestor altar is separate from my shrine room, where my
Okay.
Ifa and my Yemoja and other implements are.
Okay. All right. All right. So, okay. I'm just trying to be clear about how many altars. I always thought there was just one altar. I didn't know that there were more than one altars that could be in different parts of your house. That's very interesting. Okay. So, do you have high holidays?
We do. We do.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, of course we have the festivals, the Orisha festivals, the Egungun festivals, that's the ancestor festivals. And then for our own individual selves, since each of us are Ifa priests, you have your Odun Ifa. So you have your Ifa festival. So to celebrate your annual celebration of Ifa and receiving Ifa, and through those festivals, we give offerings, appeasement, prayers, songs, and just festivities. But most definitely, those would be the like special holidays for us.
Okay.
And then, well, yeah, those would be the holidays. I'll say that, yeah.
Okay. And so, when you have those holidays, are there certain garb that you wear during the holidays?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So the certain garments, when we talk about what we wear, it's just really based upon, like, you see that cloth behind Shango Yemi there? That's a piece of fabric that we all are supposed to make some outfits with. Okay, there it is. So we choose fabric for what we want to use, but really, when we talk about garments, we talk about when we get ready to do work. When we start changing our garments, we put on our whites. We secure ourselves spiritually when we go to do spiritual work or begin ceremony and whatnot. But that's really more about, to me, that's really our
garbs.
Okay.
Yeah, our specific garbs that we wear.
Sorry, you see me looking around, but something has popped up on my screen. It is so weird. That's distracting me. I don't know what it is and why it is or whatever. So I'm just trying to figure out what it is. All right.
The person who has a question.
Yeah, I can't even see it because it is small on my screen because something has popped up. So Ro can probably come in and answer and say something about that. I'm just trying to figure out what my screen is doing.
I do want to add to the garments as well. We do have a conference every 2 years.
Okay.
So in that conference, your Egbe is the people who have the same Orisha head, if you will, is considered an Egbe. So let's say, for example, Iya Ifakimi, Iya Damilola, myself are all priests of Yemoja. And our Egbe, we have a special material. Now we can make it fly how we want to make it fly, but we have this material that does unify us as an Egbe. And the same goes for Shango, Oshun, Oya. When we have special events, we will wear.
Wear the different thing. Okay, so when you get initiated, is there a certain color that one must wear?
White.
White.
White. Okay. And if someone makes the transition, is there a color that someone wears?
White.
White.
Oh. Okay. All right. I was like, there's a lot of okay. So you talked a little bit about believing in God because some people ask about, well, if they are Ifa, do they believe in God? So you talked a little bit about that. Did you have to come to any kind of terms when you became initiate of Ifa?
For me, no, because I understand that God expresses itself in the many.
Okay.
And so just as with culture, God expresses itself with different cultural names.
Okay.
So for me, Olodumare or Orunmila is God. It's even the elements of nature. To me, I see God in that, just as I see God in the women that are all on this call. So it's having the ability to see God in everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So okay, go ahead. Next, I'm sorry.
I agree. Just as Ia mentioned, it was an easy transition, if one at all. Really, it's all is one, and one encompasses all.
Okay.
So I didn't. Yeah, it was easy. I think what may have been just a little difficult was because coming from a metaphysical background and then practicing African and indigenously, there was some questions from my mom a little bit that just had to explain, but she had to watch me over time to say, oh, okay, this is how this works. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, once she really kind of understood it and the way she could understand it,
right,
we're good. We're good. Now she tells me to call on Ifa, you know, so. Yeah, that's shame.
So, can you tell me a little? Oh no, I got feedback. I don't know what's going on with that. So yeah, come in. Hold on 1 second. I have my daughter come in and just look what this has popped up. And so it's the screen is the one there. Okay. Sorry, she's got to come in and do it. So can you tell me a little bit about what's on your altar, your ancestral altar, in case someone would like to do an ancestral altar? Oh, here we go.
So well, on an ancestral altar, oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, so the ancestor altar, just a basic ancestor altar would be a white cloth. And then if you have pictures of your ancestors. If you don't have pictures, but you know names, it's okay to write those names down and put those on your altar as well. Certain things that you know that they liked. I know my grandfather, he used to smoke a pipe. So I went and I got him a pipe and I put it on the altar. He has his tobacco, the drinks that they liked, the food that they liked, I cooked for them because they really prefer me to cook than to really buy food. I prefer to buy food, but anyway, I give them what they like. Candles, of course, white candles. And the reason why we use white so much, because white is a color that really deflects energy rather than absorbs, as does many dark colors. So light colors deflect or, deflect energy, and darker colors absorb. So and as well as just the aspect of purity, the aspect of renewal, and all the other things. So that's why we use the white cloth. But that's just a simple, basic altar. My altar, it has a lot of other things on it. I have some gems, I have some stones based upon just some type of energy that I want to harness with my ancestors in that manifesting work that I do with them. But
go ahead.
That's all.
Oh, okay. So people put food on the altar. How long does one keep that food on the altar?
Normally 3 to 7. Sometimes they may want it longer.
Okay.
It all depends. I know I've had some dessert, sweet potato cake and stuff like that, and it wanted to be there for quite some time. But fortunately, there is a divination system that anyone can use, and they can speak with Iyadamilola, which is OB divination, to communicate with your ancestors or even your highest self. So that is a tool that can also be used to determine how long the food stays on the altar.
Okay, so someone says, knowing the Orisha, how do you go about cultivating a relationship with the Orishas? Would you suggest building a relationship with your head and complement first? So how do you go about cultivating a relationship?
You were going to say something, Shango Yemi?
Well, I can speak to my own experience. So when I came in back in 2007, at the time, Babafemi Oluo, Obafemi Fayemi was giving warriors. So this would be Eshu and Ogun. And I cultivated my relationship with, at that time, Eshu and Ogun. And then I got my hand of Ifa. So I was learning about why I came here. What was my Odu, meaning my contract? What did I sign up for? My Ori, my head, sign up for before that. So I actually started that way. It wasn't until later, honestly, I started getting more familiar with Shango and Yemoja. In my mind, Shango and Yemoja are what we would say in the metaphysical world, guardian angels. So they're here to help me fulfill my destiny. And actually, even before that, I had an ancestor altar. So for me, it started with ancestors, then Eshu Ogun. And then, I'm sorry, my headphones keep popping out. And then my hand of Ifa, my Odu, my contract. And then I sat down, literally, I created an altar for Shango, even though I wasn't initiated yet, just his attributes, and one for Yemoja, which mostly was going in nature because I lived in LA, so I would go to beach, give offerings, and that's how I began to cultivate that way.
And then also, just to add to what Ia was saying, as she was saying, ancestors are first. No matter your head, your feet, your complement, if your own ancestors do not support you in your walk, then that is going to be the most difficult walk to succeed within. So some people, and please don't get me wrong, but some people's ancestors really do support them more in the church. And it's totally to do with the destiny that they have chosen. And so although you can cultivate your relationship with Orisha by one going in nature, but most importantly, I personally feel outside of ancestors, is cultivating your own higher consciousness and that connection with your destiny. Because although Orisha choose us to say they will govern us in this way, but also we also know of Ori going to each Orisha to see who will help Ori to accomplish their destiny. And every Orisha told Ori, we could go here, but we can't go there. We can do this, but I can't do that. The only thing that will get you to your destiny at the end of the day, Onyema says, is your own Ori. So if it is my own destiny that even chooses the Orisha before I came to Earth, that said that I want you to help me along my journey, it kind of moves us outside of just focusing on our complement and feet, because yes, those are primary energies that work within us and they show through our personality type. However, all the Orisha are within us. And at any time I can access that Orisha as long as I am in tune with my own higher consciousness. And as I am with that, then I understand what that energy of Shango represents within my body, being in my root chakra. I understand what that energy of Oshun represents in my body, being in my third chakra. I understand certain things now because I'm not just looking to see Orisha through the magic and the glitz, but I'm more or less looking to see how Orisha expresses itself through me. Because the expression of Orisha is really by case situation. Everyone is different.
Ashe.
So from there's Ifa all over the country. So does each one practice I don't want to say sect, but is each group practice differently, or is there a certain standard that you all practice?
You have Isheshe, which is the traditional way, but even within Isheshe, you have lineages. So each lineage is different. And because that each lineage may have a different way that they practice. However, the understanding, the basic fundamental conceptual understanding, it should be the same.
Okay. So I've seen people that have beads, different beads and stuff. Can you talk about the beads?
Alekes.
There you go. So can you talk about those a little bit? What they represent? And how does one get them?
Okay. Well, Alekes represent each Orisha, and there's also Alekes that represent other things.
Oh.
So, for instance, I don't know how visible it is, but
I can
the
see.
green and brown that's here, this represents Ifa.
Okay.
These are consecrated with prayers, particularly for Ifa, Odus, which are sacred to Ifa, which are for the sake of the conversation, markings, the language of Ifa. It's like an activation. How one would get a lekes is actually through your spiritual practitioner. One would normally have to be having a ceremony unto the culture in the tradition of Ifa to receive them. Now, in present time, some people do receive elekes for protection or for certain things.
Okay. So the Elekes are connected to your orishas, and so each one of you have those beads, have the Eleke beads.
The warriors.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you wear them every day?
No.
Oh,
I
No.
sometimes.
Mhm.
okay.
For me, it depends on the energy that I am working with or wanting to work with. I do consistently wear particular ones daily, but for the most part, it is based on the energy that I want to work with. It may even be based on if it's that day for that Orisha, based on the Orisha calendar.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so when one is initiated, is there a beginning stage, or does one go in as a warrior, or one gets a hand and then you move up, or does it all depend on who you are and where you are?
Ooh, that's loaded. I want to say all of the above because,
Okay.
as we say, Orisha or Ifa calls you. We don't go out and be like, "Hey, we practice Ifa." It's
Okay.
different. It's kind of like you're called to it. So that could be, you picking up a book or each of our stories that we share.
Okay.
It can even start with a monthly reading. I get readings every 6 months, which, some clients have told me. And then next thing they know, they got warriors or they got their hand to be Ifa. Or they're priests. So each person is different. It's kind of all three. It just depends on the walk that Ifa puts them on, whether they know it's Ifa or not.
Okay.
And then it's, of course, I would say Ifa will always want you to reach your highest height. But you have choice as a human. So you can choose to go there or not. You know what I mean? So, yeah, your walk is your walk, but it's all dependent on how you're called. Some come through readings, some come through books, some come through lectures, some come through bimbes, some come however you come. And then your practice becomes, with the foundation in our lineage. But it's definitely going back to what Iya Damilola said. It is a study of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you expand? And what does that look like for you?
Traditionally,
So
I'm sorry. And also to add what she's saying, because we always have to make the clear difference and give a clear understanding of that difference between what's traditional and what we as a people within the diaspora have gravitated to, due to and more or less just adapted to because of circumstances. So traditionally, it is a step-by-step process. You have your, when the baby is first born, Esentaye, which will be the ceremony for you to mark Odu and to find this child's destiny, for you to be able, for the parents to be able to guide that child along their way, in the way of what they have been chosen to do in life. And then you have the next step would be the Ishefa ceremony, in which we said the one hand of Ifa or the left hand of Ifa, and then your Itefa, which would be your complete initiation into Ifa. Ishefa in itself is not an initiation. It is only a ceremony just to, it's pretty much like an opening of the way to lead you to Itefa. which is the grand initiation. However, that Odu, as many will say traditionally, it's not permanent. That Odu and that energy, it does follow you, and you are able to recognize that in seeing the part of your destiny in your life and the things that happen to you. So that's traditionally what is supposed to be done. But as many of us, I was just talking to Iya Oya the other day, and we were talking, for those of us in the diaspora who don't receive Ifa until we're like 20, 30, 40, how does that translate in understanding our purpose and our destiny, and separating from our current circumstances and what we're going through and what we chose in heaven in connection to what we actually going through right now. So that is like, it's a perspective, and it does make you think outside of the box. But traditionally, that's the way that we do it. And as you know, we are people who will continue to adapt and continue to be strong and persevere. That's what we do.
So in this climate that we have now, with all these things going on and COVID and protests, how does Ifa help you to be able to deal with all this?
Well, for me, which I did see a question in regards to Ori and how does one cultivate their relationship with their Ori. That is the first thing. To wake up in the morning and go directly to Facebook and see all of this stuff is not a good way to start your day. Our highest consciousness speaks through us in many ways, whether it's our dreams, whether it's in the things that we see in nature. And to cultivate that relationship is one, whether it's meditation, whether it is journaling, whether it is taking the time to really be honest about our thoughts. Because a lot of times we don't slow down to really be conscious of how we think, or why we feel the way we feel. And so what happens is we have the thought, we have the feeling, and then we put energy and motion behind that feeling. And so all of the emotions that we're seeing displayed across the globe about the situations that are happening for us as practitioners, for myself, most importantly, is having that moment with my Ori, having that moment with my ancestors, having that moment just in nature, to go to the beach or to even play nature sounds if I can't go to the beach because of quarantine. But it's really, truly that self-work of being honest with thoughts and feelings and how to come over versus continue the cycle that we've been seeing over the years.
For me, many people are reaching out, talking about they can hear the ancestors calling them, and there's a group of us now that are doing a week meditation, and each day we have different ancestors that we call upon to help them cross over. And so, have you been feeling like the ancestors are really calling out to you at this time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is a time, I feel that this is a time for all of us as a people to really just see ourselves, more or less than looking at the police because they've been beating us. More or less than looking at, the quote unquote, whatever, the man, whatever. I mean, our position has been our position, and it's been our position for some time. So most definitely we have to begin to be more responsible in making initiation to do something about our issues. And most definitely it is now going back to some things. We've tried the, oh, I want to be new, oh, I want education, oh, I want this, oh, I want that, and we've left our ancestors and people behind, but yet we want their help. The only way to get their help is to first acknowledge them. We got to come to the place where we acknowledge our ancestors and where we truly come from, not slavery.
Right.
But a real understanding of ourselves and our power, our spiritual power. Really much so. For me, myself, I was listening to a podcast of someone, and I forget her name, but I know that the podcast was Juju Bay. But I forget the person who was on there. I forget her name, but she has this theme called Divination for Liberation. And the whole thing about it is, she does astrology and all of those things, the person who was being interviewed. But she was really talking about any form of divination, whether it be Ifa, whether it be Terra, whether it be ruins, I Ching, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that were attached to our practices and our culture. And we have so far displaced those things. And now we're walking around here with no direction. We're walking around here with no protection. We're walking around here with not knowing. And most importantly, the things that helped us to overcome in many ways where we were able to defeat the British or so on and so forth was our spiritual practices.
Mm-hmm. Katie.
It was not us having as much gunpowder.
Right.
Yeah.
It was our spiritual practices where they said these people, they was like zombies. We killed them and it's like they came back to life. It was our spiritual practices. So one thing for sure, we know that through history and time, as African people, we have always used divination and ritual to liberate us from any amount of plague, any amount of war, anything that led us away from our blessings. Mm-hmm. And one thing we don't do nowadays is we can talk about all the knowledge and we can talk about all the new latest theories, but when it comes to do some spiritual work, people scared.
Yep.
People scared. So, that's where I'm at this point. I truly have just totally accepted my calling. Like I said, whether it's in the church, whether it's in Ifa, my calling is to be the priest. My calling is to be the leader. It is to be the one for the people. And in the way that I can help to liberate the people, it is through my spiritual practices and my work.
Ashe.
So can you share with us just a little bit of what your daily practice is, if you can?
I did want to add to Ia Damilola what she said. I definitely stand with her on that, and add this as well. A lot of us have to look in our own lineages because we're carrying stuff. We're carrying stuff from generation to generation, trauma, and we're repeating it. We're thankful, and some of us again are chosen to help our families break those cycles, and we're breaking them through Ifa. And once we break that cycle, whether it be stubbornness, whatever it is, there's dozens of families that say, oh yeah, my grandmother went through this and now you going through it. Right. So we got to break that cycle of generational patterns that repeats itself, that is to the detriment of the family. Right. And once that is broken, then we can be elevated and we could really see ourselves as that higher elevation that we came here to be. So I wanted to add that to what Ia said as well.
Can you see the question that's being asked?
I do.
I want to answer her.
Go ahead.
You go ahead after me, Yadami. Okay, yes. Kelly Brook. As a white woman exploring and beginning on journey with Ifa prior to 2020, is it wrong of me to continue to respect and practice aspects of it? No. I am white, appropriating African culture. Kelly Brook. If spirit is calling you, spirit is calling you. You never know what has happened with your ancestors, with your ancestors before. This could be a calling for you to help right some wrongs that were done. This calling for you can help uplift you. As long as you really get to know your spiritual self and sit with yourself and talk to your ancestors, research your ancestry lineage to find out what really went on. And that will give you more answers about why you have been called to Ifa or whatever tradition that you are choosing to practice. There's nothing wrong with learning to respect the ways of nature and understanding them. So I hope you have a beautiful walk on your journey and may your ancestors bless you. Get to know them better. And if you do not have an ancestor altar, please set one up.
I say.
Yeah.
I was gonna pretty much say the same thing. Ifa is not a color. Ifa is not a race of people. Ifa is Ifa. Ifa is the study and the wisdom of nature. And you are most definitely a creation of such. So to say that you can or cannot practice, that's solely based upon your own Ori and what you chose in heaven, your own higher consciousness. Because for us as African Americans, I will say, and this is not for all, but it is a great deal of those who walk amongst the other zombies that my brother Fela Kuti talked about. There's many Africans who would say that we as African Americans should not practice Ifa. And let's just talk about it. So it's not, we don't have to look at it that way. You know, Ifa is not about color or race, but as for our people, we have just been so, and the reason why I talked about our people, us as Black people, particularly us within the diaspora, is because through slavery, through systematic brutality, we have been so far displaced from ourselves. And we were not raised and brought up to love ourselves. We were not raised and brought up to know anything about ourselves. So we got a whole lot of other stuff going on. We don't have to just choose Ifa. We got to choose life. We got to choose a better way of thinking. Right? So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about to my people. But other than that, you are a part of my people as well. So most definitely, I don't see any problems with that, me personally.
So once again, can you tell us a little bit about your daily practice?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's right.
Well, my daily practice is well, I wake up in the morning. Of course, the first thing I do is I greet my head, my Ori. I pray to my own higher consciousness that my higher consciousness will lead me along my day, making proper decisions and proper choices, and that I'm able to see any blessings or opportunities that come my way. I also pray to my ancestors for them to protect me, as well as my family and my loved ones in beginning the day. Depending upon which day of the Orisha it is, I may go to that Orisha. If it is Ifa day, for sure I'm going to Ifa on Oshe Ifa or Itadagun. It just really depends on what, and then I go to work. And or I may do some readings, or I may do some spiritual work with people, but I most definitely do have a 9 to 5 as well. So yes.
So there's a day for each Orishas? For each Orisha?
What was that?
There's a day for
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you tell me which days? Who?
Go ahead, Fakimi.
Well, Ajay is the only Orisha that has its own day. Other than that, there is a 4-day calendar that is from the lineage. There is one of our teachers, Shango Dare. He does create the calendar every year for us in the diaspora. He has a Facebook page, but his website is currently not up. But Gone Philosophy is the Facebook page where one can find and purchase the Orisha calendar.
Okay. Shango Dare, where do you
There with you?
I do. I think it's right behind you, sis. Hold on. Let me grab one.
Okay, yeah, show the audience calendar.
Where does he live? Is that the brother that came with Baba Femi?
Yes, he's from Houston, Texas as well.
Yeah,
Texas.
I know him because he does the astrology and what have you, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the calendar. I don't know if you can see, but today, for example, today is Ogun's Day.
Yay.
Yay.
Oh, okay.
So every 4 days it changes.
Oh,
But
right.
the days it's Ifa, Eshu, Oshun. They share the same day. Then it will go to Ogun and Ochosi. Then Shango and Oya and Ibeji share the same day. Then Obatala, Iyami, Egun, and Sopana. So, and then it rotates back to Ifa.
Yeah, will you tell the audience which day Ajay is? You mentioned Ajay, but you didn't tell them which day is Ajay's day.
Ajay's day is Monday, Money Monday. So every Monday is the Orisha of wealth, Orisha of abundance.
Okay.
Yes.
Going to work on Monday. Okay. I like it. I'm glad to know Shango Dare is still around. Oh my God. It's so funny. It's funny how you meet people in different paths and different phases of your life and what have you. So I knew he was talking about moving someplace else, but he's still in Houston. So I'm glad to know that for sure. Let me see. I wrote down something. So you gave me the days of Orisha because I was trying to get all that straight. All right. So anybody else want to share about this spiritual practice, their daily practice?
It's pretty much the same for me as
Same.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
pretty
do you
much the
attend your
same.
altars every day? Do you attend your altars?
My ancestors, I greet them every day. I pass them every day, as you as well.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do your ancestral altar, is there any particular place in the house that should be?
Well, for me, I have it in a corner in a specific place that it was just perfect for them. But some say the corner, depending on which, again, lineage. Some say not to put it in your bedroom.
Oh.
And place it in another room. And I believe my sisters have theirs in different rooms as well. So,
Oh, but not in your
but
bedroom.
normally in a corner.
Okay.
Right. But
So
for
long-
those in the audience, out of the viewers who do have ancestor altars and they may be in your bedroom, remember to cover them with a white sheet or white cloth.
When you are.
When you are
Doing grown
what is
stuff.
somebody else? When you are
Doing grown folk stuff. Yeah.
engaging in intimate things.
Right. Ashe. I think that sidetracked with them. She started talking about covering altars and doing things in your bedroom. All right. So we get toward the info. What would you like to? Oh, I was going to ask you. I know it's now. Senior moment. So with all the things that are going on with Black women being murdered and different things going on, what can we do in terms of, well, what do you do, or what does Ifa do in terms of us elevating or dissipating some of the things that is going on with Black women?
Mm.
There's a lot going on.
That's a loaded question.
That's very loaded.
Very loaded
Well,
question.
women are disappearing. We're seeing women disappearing
Yeah.
every day. There's domestic violence. There's a lot of things going on with Black women. And we do focus on the Black men, but there's a lot going on with sisters that are being left behind. So what can we do as women to help elevate sisters, or to lead them down a different path, or show them that there's different choices? I guess that's a lot going on in that particular question.
I
Well,
think. Oh, go ahead, Ia. Go ahead.
Okay. For one, it would take women like us getting together
Mm-hmm.
and encouraging other women to join us, whether it's in groups, meditation, talks, ceremonies, ritual.
Yeah.
And these ceremonies and rituals would really be geared and based on what's going on now around women's issues. Whether it's a cutting the cord ceremony, which Ia
Okay.
Damilola does, and Ia Kimi and I also. It would be things of that sort, holding spaces, safe spaces where women can come to talk about their issues, to get spiritual assistance, introducing women to how they begin to work with their ancestors. Most importantly, helping them get to know and understand themselves, bringing methods to them where they can learn to center themselves, to sit, to be able to really get deep down and get those traumas and be able to really recognize self-sabotage or the things that we as women do in order to start to heal us, so we can go out and help the multitudes of women and to be able to go and speak and, try to help them.
I agree.
Yes.
Same here. That was it.
Also with that whole aspect of what we know as that feminine force would be the divine feminine force of the Iyami.
Ashe.
And that's what we know in Ifa. And Ifa teaches us through the Iyami. And when we hear about the Iyami and Ifa, it's always something of sometimes it's not a lot of good news. But we know that they run and rule this marketplace, and which we know is Earth, the place where we come to exchange. And knowing that what they teach us as women is how to respect that divine feminine, one within ourselves, but most definitely within other women.
Right.
And in many ways, the trauma that each of us have all gone through, if not checked and acknowledged, and one can find ways of healing, all we do is put and place that trauma onto the next woman that comes in along our path.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are more hateful to each other and have gravitated so many patriarchal ways against each other that it's just, I mean, it's kind of like we're not doing ourselves any favors. So in many ways, yes, there's a lot of we are being left out. I was reading something the other day that was talking about the black man this and the black man that, and I really hate it when they love to put the emphasis on the separation between the black man and the black woman. It's saddening in how they push that out, but it is a truth. But also to a certain extent though, because we've just been taught so much self-hate that we don't know how to really love ourselves, let alone each other. You know, many women didn't come up with a positive mother image in their lives. For many women, their biggest competition in their life was their mother. Now imagine that, and I'm telling you to come to this women group and shed love. You don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
You can't even fathom it. So we have to find ways to, again, like Oya was saying, to acknowledge ourselves as women through our own healing processes, but also in that work with the divine feminine, or with the Iyami Osaranga, what they teach us as women is, most importantly, is to stay in good standings with other women. It's not just so much a ritual work. Ritual work is not going to take away your bad attitude. Ritual work is not going to take away your bad character.
Right.
So, you know, in working on those things and just trying to be happier, you know, of course, the environment has a great effect on that. But I most definitely feel that within that whole concept of talking about the divine feminine, we have to think about, it was a time when women ruled this world. And in Ifa, we understand that everything has its duality, everything has its time, everything has its season. So there are things that caused us to misuse our power, that caused us to lose our power, in the same way that we see our men in the same position now. So as Mother Earth, as the mother, we have to rectify the matter. But most definitely it's with ourselves.
Right.
Ashe.
Yeah, she's right, definitely.
Ashe.
Right. So a couple people want to know how they can reach out to you. So would each one of you, if you do readings, can you give them your email address, or how do you want them to reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to me through my email. My email is carttene@gmail.com. And yes, I do readings as well.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love readings. What? Okay. Anybody else who does readings want to give your email, or
I also do readings. They can reach me through email. My name, aworanke.awo7@gmail.com. So IYA.AWO7, the number 7, and @gmail.com. And I do readings. I also do classes teaching divination, and we do other myself and Iya Kimmy, we do other workshops, Orisha workshops, with our company Alafia, which is, they can also reach us on our website, alafia.com.
Oh, okay. So what kind of workshops do you do?
Excuse me.
What kind of workshops do you?
We do Orisha workshops. We do ancestral workshops. We help people set up ancestral altars and understand how to work with their ancestors, as well as Orisha in nature. The divination workshops. We do a lot of different things.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's exciting. So, all right, we're getting toward it. We're past it. Yeah.
And then Iya Gigi.
Yes, Iya Gigi.
Okay.
So my email is Olori Omigbemi, OLORIOM, as in Mary, IGMI, BEMI@gmail.com. And again, the website is www.alafia.net. And we're also on all the social media platforms as well. And the OB Room. Check out the OB Room.
So you guys can send that to me, and I'll make sure that it's on the comments or the chats in the Voices from Wise Women. So we wanted to give you a chance to do a last parting little. What would you like to leave the audience with? What would you like to leave them with? So think of what you would like to say as your last shout out, last little parting word.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Ia.
Well, I didn't get a chance to give my information, but it's Ia Oyatobe at priest.com. I do specialize in spiritual house cleanings and Omiero baths, spiritual baths, and other works besides medicines and black soaps. And my parting words would be just really sit and get to know yourself. Get to know yourself, clear your mind, and just listen to your ancestors. And don't be afraid. Pay attention to your dreams and let spirit lead you to what spiritual practice is best for you. It may not be Ifa. It may be working with the Loa. It may be working with roots. It may be voodoo. It may just be a whole mashup and mixture of some of everything. But let your spirit guide you to what's best for you and really reconnect with your ancestors because they're here to help you.
I appreciate that. Parting word?
I would just echo what Ia Oya said and just use the phrase that's thousands of years old. Know thyself. And don't be afraid.
Yeah. And don't be afraid.
Good one. I echo what the Ias have said as well. I would definitely say to connect with nature in those times where you feel in this time and day where we are, a lot is going on around us. Take the time out to connect in nature, whether it is you can't get to a beach, but you can listen to the sounds of the beach. Tap into your higher self by being still. You know, with everything going on, just be still sometimes and listen and write and draw. If you don't like writing, just color. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I tell people, there's a hotel somewhere with a square that's just red sitting there and they paid thousands of dollars. So you too are an artist and allow yourself to create your life.
Love, peace, and soul. No, I'm just joking. I would just say, out of everything that the Ias has said, all of those things, and most definitely, take the time to develop just your spiritual selves, because that's where our power truly lies. We can be physical, but if we don't have the spiritual, then we have nothing. If we don't have the emotional, then we have nothing. If we don't have the mental, then we have nothing. This is a holistic walk. So we have to think holistically when we talk about how we're going to plan and strategize how to be better. So Godspeed.
I just appreciate you all. I'm definitely going to have you come back again and talk more about, setting up ancestral altars and what that looks like, because I think a lot of people would like to have it, but just don't know what they need to have or where it could be, or what's some things you can have on the altar. So I would definitely like you to come back for that, and then come back and talk about some other things. I mean, just have plethora of information that you're giving to us, and I really want to. I really appreciate it, because it was kind of like the last minute you all came on and provide this great insight and information, and I just really, really appreciate it. And I've gotten some great things, feedback, comments, people like, oh, thank you, it was great insights, how they like it. So I appreciate you all very, very much. And so just want to say, everybody, please stay safe, wear your mask, shelter in place if you can, and just, be mindful of where you are and that this is always this whole thing is about public health. And I know people don't want to wear masks, but it's about public health. It's not just for yourself, but it's for other people that are in the community as well, and older people like myself. Think about us when you're out there. And I just want to say peace, bliss, and blessing, and we will see everyone next Sunday.
Ashe.
Wise women. Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ashe.
All right, we'll be back on in 1 second.